When two people witness the same miracle and face the same pressure, they often walk away with entirely different convictions. In the record of 1 Nephi, a group of brothers experienced the exact same events, yet their conclusions about what is real and what is possible could not be further apart. By following the sequence of events in 1 Nephi 3, we can track exactly where these perspectives begin to split, beginning with their first steps back toward a city marked for destruction. Verse 9 sets the starting point. "And I, Nephi, and my brethren took our journey in the wilderness, with our tents, to go up to the land of Jerusalem." This elevation graph reflects the physical reality of the journey. In the ancient Near East, Jerusalem sat on a geographic high point, but the climb was also symbolic. To go up was to approach the center of their faith and their laws. By bringing their tents, the brothers signaled they were no longer part of the settled society. They were now travelers in the wilderness. Upon arrival, verse 10 notes that the brothers did consult one with another. At this early stage, they are attempting to work as a single unit. They use a shared council to make decisions, showing a temporary state of cooperation before the mission turns dangerous. They enter the city gates as a unified group, closely following a detailed plan that they have all agreed upon. Verse 11 then describes the use of lots to decide who would approach Laban. The lot falls to Laman. This was an established way to seek divine direction, and it placed the responsibility squarely on the eldest brother to lead the first attempt. In verse 12, Laman requests the plates of brass from Laban, specifically citing the genealogy of his father. These records were more than a family tree. In this culture, your genealogy was your legal standing. It proved your right to land, your place in the community, and your connection to the history of your people. Verse 13 records Laban's response. He calls Laman a robber, thrusts him out of the house, and threatens to kill him. Laban's reaction is a total rejection of the legal and moral standards he was supposed to uphold. His hostility toward a legitimate request for family records aligns with the warnings given by contemporary prophets, like Jeremiah, who described a city where justice had been discarded. According to verse 14, Laban flees and tells his brothers what happened. Discouraged and afraid, the brothers begin to conclude that the mission is impossible and suggest returning to their father. This first setback creates the first crack in the group. Facing a threat of death, their unity begins to dissolve into fear. In verse 15, Nephi refuses to retreat. He swears an oath, "As the Lord liveth, and as we live, we will not go down unto our father, until we have accomplished the thing which the Lord hath commanded us." By saying, "as the Lord liveth," Nephi uses the strongest possible legal and spiritual language. He is binding his own life to the success of the mission, effectively ending any debate about giving up. Verse 16 shows Nephi shifting to a practical strategy. He suggests they use their father's remaining wealth, his gold and silver, to buy the records. He recognizes that following a command often requires using every resource at their disposal. This persistence is driven by a looming reality. In verse 17, Nephi reminds them that Jerusalem is on the verge of destruction. This map shows the geopolitical situation in 600 BC. The Babylonian Empire was moving across the region, and Jerusalem was directly in its path. The threat of conquest was not just a spiritual warning, it was a visible military fact. Verse 18 explains that the people had rejected the prophets who warned them of this invasion. This pattern of ignoring warnings had reached a point where destruction was now inevitable. For Lehi's family, staying in the land meant certain death or captivity. Leaving was the only way to survive the coming war. Verse 19 explains that they must get the plates to preserve unto our children the language of our fathers. Language is the vessel for a people's identity. Without these records, future generations would eventually lose the ability to read their own history or understand their heritage. In verse 20, Nephi adds that the plates contain the words of the prophets since the world began. These records would act as the primary link between the new colony and the voice of God. Without them, the brothers were not just losing a book, they were losing their connection to the instructions God had given their ancestors. Verse 21 notes that Nephi's reasoning works. He uses both the physical threat of Babylon and the spiritual necessity of the records to bring his brothers back into the plan. They were not just chasing a family relic. They were trying to secure the foundational pieces required to build a new society. In verse 22, the brothers gather all their gold and silver. This represents their entire inheritance, everything they would have relied on for their future security. Verse 23 states they went up again to Laban's house. They are now risking their lives for a second time, this time carrying their family's entire fortune. Verse 24 details the offer. They try to trade their wealth for the brass plates, following the standard practice of the time for acquiring something of high value. But verse 25 shows that Laban's greed overrides the law. He sees the property, lusts after it, and sends his servants to kill the brothers so he can keep the wealth without giving up the plates. According to verse 26, the brothers are forced to run for their lives, leaving everything behind. Laban now has their property, and they have nothing. Verse 27 finds them hiding in the cavity of a rock. They have gone from being wealthy heirs in a major city to fugitives hiding in a cave with no money and no plan. Every material safety net has been torn away. They are left in a state of absolute loss, with nothing to rely on but the command they were given. In verse 28, the stress turns into violence. Laman and Lemuel turn their anger on their younger brothers and beat them with a rod. This shift from angry words to physical blows shows the depth of their frustration. They have lost their wealth and their status, and they blame the brother who persuaded them to stay. As they are striking their brothers, verse 29 records that an angel of the Lord appears. The angel commands them to stop and promises that Laban will be delivered into their hands. This is the ultimate form of evidence. It is a physical, visible interruption that confirms Nephi's words and God's power in a way that cannot be ignored. Verse 30 tells us that after the angel spoke, he departed. The miracle was real, but it was over. At this moment, the brothers have seen exactly what Nephi saw. They have the same proof. Yet verse 31 shows that the miracle didn't settle the matter. As soon as the angel is gone, Laman and Lemuel begin to complain again. They ask, "How is it possible that the Lord will deliver Laban into our hands? Behold, he is a mighty man, and he can command 50. Laman is looking at the math, 4 brothers against 50 armed soldiers. To him, physical numbers tell the only story that matters. Even after an angel, his calculation doesn't change. He treats the miracle as an isolated event, not new data. This reveals a core truth about how we process what we see. Laman and Lemuel saw an angel, but they still believed in the power of Laban's 50 men more than the promise they had just been given. For them, the physical danger remained more real than the divine command.